everyone. My name is Susanna Ronowitz. I'm here from Law Career Services to talk with LLM students about how to utilize our office and some things you should be aware of in the career planning process. And so there's a white handout over there, and it has kind of the outline that I plan to use today just to sort of track the conversation for all of you. And there's some websites and resources embedded right on that handout, so I thought it'd be helpful for you to have that in front of you as we talk. So several of you have already expressed to me an interest in getting legal experience while you're here, either during your program or immediately upon the completion of the program. And so we'll talk a lot about that. You've heard, I'm sure, different terms: internship, law clerk, externship, and it's all very confusing as to what these things mean. And they all mean different things. I mean, they all mean the same thing in that they are opportunities for law students to get legal experience. So we're not talking about a job where you go in and you're just you're making coffee for the attorneys, right? I mean, we're expecting you to go into an office where you're being supervised by attorneys doing legal work. Generally, we call that an internship. That's the most generic term. You might also hear the term law clerk, and that often means the same thing. The phrase externship typically refers to positions where you're earning academic credit. So we have several externship courses here at the law school where students can go and work off campus in a law setting and be supervised by attorneys, and then they earn units towards their degree by taking a particular class, and they usually attend class once a week, but most of the time is spent out in the field working in a law office. And so typically we call that an externship. And so that's kind of the difference with those terms. One thing that is often different for some students, depending on where they come from, is that this whole process of finding an opportunity is driven completely by you. This is not, in the US, we don't have a situation where you're matched into a job or the employer just says, okay, I'm going to take you. It is driven by you. And I, on the one hand, that means there's a lot more work and a lot more initiative that you have to display, but it also means that you have more control over the kind of experience that you get. And so you can seek out opportunities that are more aligned with your career goals and your career interests. But as I said, it does take a little bit more initiative and ownership on your part. The role of Law Career Services is to help you in that process and to make sure you understand the process, you are prepared to present yourself to employers, that you understand who these employers are and how to find them, and we will do our best to link you with those opportunities. But ultimately, it's you who applies for them and attends the interview and that sort of thing. In terms of timing, for those of you who are considering something for the spring semester, now would be a good time to start looking and really to start that process. And we'll talk about what the process is, but I would start now by mainly working on your application documents. So for most positions that you apply for, you will need a resume and a cover letter. Those are kind of the basic minimums that you will need to present to an employer. Legal resumes in the US have a very particular style and format to them. They're probably different from whatever curriculum vitae or resumes you may have created for prior job searches. So we do find that it takes a while to get the format and the presentation down correctly before your documents are ready to present to an employer. And for some students, if English is not your first language, there's sort of that additional barrier or not barrier, but just we want to work hard to make sure everything is perfect and smooth. That there are no glitches in the language or in the way idioms or phrases or the way that the documents are presented, and that it's presented in the way that the U.S. employers are expecting to see your materials. So I would say if you're looking for something to begin in January, you want to start that process now of working on your resume and getting a basic outline of a cover letter together. The cover letter accompanies your resume and is used to introduce you to the employers that you're writing to, and it typically talks about your interest in the position that you're seeking, the qualifications that you have for that position, and that's really the goal of that letter. And for students who who have credentials that may not be easily understood to employers. A cover letter is a real opportunity to explain the training you might have from your home country, the training that you're having here in the U.S., and why your combination of academic training and work experience would be a good fit for this employer that you're writing to. We'll talk a little bit later about the resources that we have to help you develop those documents. You then want to start applying to these positions relatively soon. So within the next month or so, if you're planning to seek an opportunity for spring, I really plan to be getting applications out there. So we want to make it a priority to start getting our application documents looking good. Now, employers hire students for a variety of reasons. The primary reason is that they have a lot of work to do and they're very busy and they need help. And so they like to hire law students who are smart and ambitious and who work hard and who are highly motivated. And that ambition and that enthusiasm will often compensate if you don't have a lot of direct experience. Because they know if you're motivated, you'll figure things out and you'll roll up your sleeves and work hard. But they are expecting you to come in to actually get work done and ultimately make life a little bit easier for them. And so that's one thing you want to keep in your mind when you present yourself to employers is how can you help them? What can, you all know how this job might help you in terms of building your skills and building your contacts and giving you exposure, but you want to think about how you can be of assistance to them and make their jobs a little bit easier. And so that's something to keep in the back of your mind. We find that there are opportunities for law students in a wide variety of employers. Law firms present really the largest number of opportunities just because they represent the largest segment of the legal marketplace. And we have students at every size law firm you can think of, but most law students are working at small and mid-sized law firms. The large law firms don't typically hire interns during the school year, and when they hire interns over the summer, it's for their summer associate programs, and most firms have already completed the hiring process for the students that they would be bringing in this coming summer. So if you're looking at a private sector placement, a law firm placement, we're thinking more, working for a small firm or a mid-sized firm at this point. Government agencies often hire students. This could be a district attorney office, public defender office, or any number of administrative agencies that hire lawyers. Usually for internships, citizenship is not required. So that tends not to be a barrier for our international students. If you are looking for permanent employment, then that's a different situation, different rules might apply. But for internships, they're typically available to all law students. We also have many what we would call public interest organizations, and these are nonprofit organizations that have a public service dimension to them, and they rely on law students to meet their clients' needs, and so they tend to hire a lot of law students, and so that may be a fruitful area for some of you. The courts hire students each semester to work in judicial chambers. These positions are typically called judicial externships, and there are positions available at the state and federal courts, at the trial level and at the appellate level. There's a real multitude of opportunities. We actually did a presentation on how to find judicial externships last week, and that's recorded, and you should be able to find that on our YouTube channel, which is on your handout. I would encourage you to take a look at that. That is a fairly cumbersome process, and if that's something that you're interested in, we'll want to move that process along fairly quickly. I will tell you that the judges really scrutinize students' writing ability. So there's an even higher burden of making sure your materials are perfect if you are seeking to work for the court, because while you work for the court, you are actually producing work that judges might sign. You're producing judicial orders, and you have to show them that you can produce work that is at the level of what a judge or what a court would produce, and so they really have a higher threshold in terms of their hiring. Many corporations have in-house legal departments, so we've had students work for those, and certainly here in San Francisco and in the Bay Area, there are many corporations that have lawyers in-house who might consider taking an intern. And then there are opportunities on campus. Sometimes students will work for professors, doing research, or in other capacities. I'll talk a little bit less about that process. It tends to be a bit more informal and often just through the relationships that you might have with your faculty members, sort of how they tend to recruit. So those are kinds of opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, usually you need to show that you're authorized to work here, but for these internships, most of them don't have a citizenship requirement. It's only when you're trying to find permanent employment that citizenship becomes an issue, but it's certainly something you want to verify with particular organizations that you're seeking. One option I want to highlight that could be something you do in addition to working, instead of working, or as a precursor to working, is to do some pro bono work. And pro bono work is volunteer work for the benefit of the greater good. And there are lots of opportunities for law students to do pro bono work. And there are a lot of benefits to doing it. I mean, for one, it's a good thing to do. You're helping out people who have significant legal needs. They have nowhere to turn, and you are available to them at a time in their lives when they are very vulnerable and they are dealing with legal situations that are quite overwhelming to them. And you might be that person who can step in and provide them with some assistance and some structure and really have a meaningful impact on people's lives. So it's a good thing to do. The time commitment tends to be very short. These are things you might volunteer just for one event. So maybe there's a clinic where folks can drop in and get legal advice, and it's staffed by attorneys and law students, and so you might be there staffing that clinic for 2 hours and providing information to folks who come in, and then they leave and the clinic ends and you go home, and that's the entirety of your commitment. And so for people who are busy, like all of you, that tends to be a nice way to fit some work experience into your schedules. We find that the burden to get these jobs is quite low. I mean, these are volunteer opportunities. You don't have to go through a whole application process the way you would for an internship. And so it's a nice way for you to build some experience if you're concerned that you might be applying for jobs or internships and you don't have any U.S. experience on your resume or legal experience in the U.S. on your resume. That's a nice way to get it. So you volunteer at some of these clinics, you then put on your resume that you do pro bono work, and so that makes it a little bit easier when you go on an interview and maybe gives you something to talk about. Your work, when you do pro bono work, is usually supervised by attorneys, and so that's also a nice way for you to develop relationships with attorneys in the community. And those relationships might, maybe they take an interest in you, take an interest in your background, and help you make other introductions that might be helpful to you. So I really encourage all of you to take a look at pro bono opportunities, maybe instead of internships, or maybe as a pathway to getting some sort of internship and building your experience. We participate in a pro bono project here, so we work with an organization called One Justice, and they arrange all of these pro bono experiences for Golden Gate Law students. And if you look on the handout under that first item, Getting Legal Experience, at the beginning of this section, you'll see the www.lawstudentprobono.org. That's where you would go. You can sign up for it and learn about the different pro bono opportunities. But that's the mechanism that I would encourage you to use. It's set up to help Golden Gate students already. There's a yellow handout over there that tells you a little bit more about the benefits of pro bono work and what it is and why lawyers should be doing it. And so that's just useful background information. I encourage you to take that. So what is our role at Law Career Services? We are here to provide service to you and to orient you to this whole process and to fill in the gaps and answer questions and really make sure that you're presenting yourself effectively to employers. So I encourage you to meet with us. There are 4 of us who serve as career advisors or career counselors, and you can call Oscar, who's back there, and say, I'd like to make an appointment with an advisor at Law Career Services, and then he'll match you up with one of us. We all tend to have different specialties, so if you want to work in the private sector, you might talk to one person, or if you want to do government or public interest, you might pair you up with somebody else. Any of us can help you. But in those meetings, we would talk to you about your interests. We would look at your documents and make sure they're ready to go. We might give you some feedback on your resume and cover letter. We can then talk to you about resources to learn about different opportunities and how you would then go about applying for those opportunities. If you're selected for an interview, you want to come back and meet with us so that we can prepare you for the job interview. Make sure you understand what to expect,